So you want to see what I'm talking about on my desktop. So over here, I have a bunch of options. I can have a chat if you want, and or we can, there's different functionality, but what I want to do is share my screen, which is my desktop basically, so you can see what I'm talking about on my screen. So it's asked me, what do you want to share? Just your entire screen? Or for example, if I had an application like a Google Slides open, I could say just use the application Google Slides and just follow that. Never mind what's going on the screen. So, but right now I'm just going to use the main screen, share the main screen, and of course it gives you this crazy thing. So you just have to mute that or minimize that, and now it's showing you whatever I've got on my screen. So this is where we've been before, and yeah, so you can start seeing whatever is being whatever is on my computer desktop is now being broadcast live to the Google Hangout, and is also going to be recorded and available on the YouTube video when we're done here. So, and this Google Hangouts, this is a pretty good deal because they let you record up to 8 hours of material on here, so you can do some pretty amazing live events if you're so inclined. So, and it seems to work really well, and it seems to not take very long to process in YouTube, and it's reasonably easy to watch, I guess. Are you watching it live now?
No.
Okay, well.
I'm waiting for it, but I was thinking, will you have to say, I do not own rights to this if there was music playing in the background or anything?
Oh yeah, sometimes they'll actually lock it out until you remove certain things, right? So if you use somebody else's music, copyrighted music, even if it's playing in the background, they'll still kick it out. So we'll look at some of those things, what you have to do for permissions and using copyrighted materials and using materials that's appropriate to use, I guess is the idea. So
No, still not loading yet.
Still not loading?
Or not live yet.
Okay. Well, it's sharing as far as I could see, so should be getting there soon.
See it?
You see it? Okay. Good. Anyway, so what do we want to talk about today? Back to my your blog. Open your blog and start a post for today. And we're going to talk a little bit more about podcasting today, and by the end of the day, I hope to get into video casting. So we've been sort of, working around this YouTube, but there's many other ways to do video casts that, again, provide much more power to any lessons that you design. The same, you've probably heard me say it already, but a picture paints 1,000 words. A YouTube video paints 10,000 words. So you can put a lot more content and a lot more usable content for your students using a video, and it's pretty simple, systematic way to go. Yesterday we made a few video or audio clips, and as I said, ordinarily when we're doing this, if you have your own laptop computer like this that has a multimedia laptop computer, which is what you probably should have when you're a professional educator, should have a multimedia laptop. The iPads are okay, but they just don't have the power and the background necessary to do this. So you should probably consider getting yourself an actual full laptop at some point. And one that uses a full operating system like Microsoft Windows 10. Most of the things that are done on the computer depend on having that type of operating system. The operating system that's on these iPads and devices, it's a mobile operating system, so it doesn't have the same oomph or power or robustness that's needed to run lots of these multimedia applications. That being said, there's lots of things that you can do on the iPad or the other devices that can't be done on. I shouldn't say can't be done on the main laptop computers, but Okay, so talked about podcasts. What's a podcast again? It's mostly audio in this case. No, it's audio. And I mentioned that there's all sorts of things. Podcast has become really popular. This is one I found. 11 Indigenous podcasts for your listening pleasure. This is the mostly Canadian content. And some of these I listen to on a regular basis. Let me go find one that I really like. Oh, this Rosanna Deerchild has a podcast called Unreserved. It's actually a CBC radio program, but it's also a podcast. So if you want to listen to it, you can go to it and see if he's got a link here. Let's see if it just links. Huh. Unreserved. So this is what CBC radio now, still broadcasts radio, but just about everything they broadcast on radio, they make it available in a digital version called a podcast. So if I want to listen to this, where is it? Most of the time you just click this little thing.
This is a CBC podcast. Want a weekly roundup of the best CBC radio programming?
So I have to
Subscribe to the CBC Radio 1 newsletter. Get a digest of the week's top stories. In-depth articles, listen to interviews and documentaries, and get the lowdown on upcoming stories from CBC Radio 1 that you need to hear. To subscribe, go to cbc.ca/radio and look for the subscribe button. The CBC Radio 1 newsletter. Be informed.
Say, bonjour, hello, and welcome. This is Unreserved on CBC Radio 1. I'm Rosanna Deerchild. The word Nunavut means our land in Inuktitut, and it was 20 years ago that Nunavut officially became a territory.
Anyway, that's Rosanna Deerchild's great program. How did I get lost here? What else? Media Indigena is another one that does a lot of podcasts of different types. Where is it? Bad link. Dead link. Native Currents. Let's see what this sounds like. I don't know this one, but you see where they're hosting this podcast? What do you see in the address on this? nativecurrents.blogspot.com. It's the same thing that you're using here. For this class, they're using it to host this podcast. And what they're doing is posting their file, posting that SoundCloud, embedding that SoundCloud podcast onto a Blogspot blog. So, and this is what it sounds like.
Welcome to Native Currents, a critical look at what's going down in Indian country, broadcasting from the shores of Lake Ontario, an Iroquois word for beautiful lake or beautiful water. I'm glad
So you've got, controls on here, not so many controls right on the embedded version, but as soon as you click on it, you get a bunch more controls. The thing I like about SoundCloud is that then also, and I'll show you how to use SoundCloud. It's one of the podcasting platforms that works really well. You can pause, you can rewind, you can go back. You actually see a little player.
Within
the audio wave shows up on this thing.
That's
the other thing about this particular platform for podcasting is it's what they call a social platform, so you can actually comment. So, for example, if somebody made a point at this point in the conversation, what you can do is pause it right there and then write a comment. So I don't know if I want to put this on here. I'll say great show. And then post that there. Ask me to log in. No, okay, so I can't do it. I'll have to log into my SoundCloud after a while, but anyways, that's the idea. So right on that audio timeline, you can insert a comment, and wherever you insert that comment, it shows up on here. So people can have a conversation about this particular podcast, whatever's happening in this podcast. So, and it's got some real interesting possibilities. Yeah, I don't know. Just thought I'd look at a few of those. There's a comedy one that I was listening to the other day too. That was kind of fun. Red Man Laughing. So that's what this one looks like. They're all a little bit different, each episode. Let's see if this is going to play. Okay.
Red Man Laughing is a proud member of Indian and Cowboy, the world's only member-supported Indigenous podcast network. You can go to patreon.com/Indian and Cowboy to help build the Indigenous media revolution you've never dreamed of. Or you can go to indianandcowboy.com and learn about our membership program. Thanks, Indian and Cowboy. You're the best.
So you see how these work there. I mean, there's lots of different platforms, lots of different ways to display them, but basically the idea is that they've recorded an audio file, edited it somehow, put it on a web page that I can go click a link on and listen to. Stop it, rewind it, re-record it. So this little podcast player allows me to access that audio file that you recorded. So that's a 2 or 3 step process. First, record the audio, then edit the audio if you want to, and then host it somewhere. Put it someplace where other people can go and listen to it. So what we did with our audio is we hosted it, we recorded something, and we put it on our Google Drive. But now we've got to find a place. We fooled around a little bit yesterday. We put it on Vocaroo, right? We're able to upload that audio file from Google Drive to Vocaroo podcast, right? So if I put that Vocaroo somewhere and somebody could go click that link and listen to what I said, that's a podcast. But there's a few different ways. We'll have some fun with this. What I want to do today is basically, I guess I've been looking at some other stuff too, the way that using podcast is being used in the curriculum. Americans have this thing called National Public Radio, which is kind of like their version of partly one of their versions of CBC Radio, national radio, and they do lots of podcasting on there. In fact, most of these media companies nowadays, whether that's television, radio, newspapers, all do some version of a podcast. All have some audio availability. So it's sort of just one of the ways that media is done these days. So, but on this, I'll link this on my blog too. But all the different resources related to podcasting. So choosing a topic, planning the story, brainstorming sounds, all these little lessons. They're pretty straightforward. What we're going to do is use it to plan a lesson. And as I said, one of the lessons that's out of the Manitoba curriculum, and best place to access the Manitoba curriculum, of course, is the Manitoba Department of Education website. Basically, all the curriculum is listed here. It's what every teacher in the province is expected to do, right? You're supposed to teach based on, guided by the Manitoba curriculum. And so if we go into it, something like, let's go to social studies, for example. And this is one thing where podcasts possibly have some real relevance. What have we got? Let's just go cruising through this and go through the social studies curriculum. And I'll go into the grade 5 to 8 curriculum for social studies, and let's go look at the actual curriculum documents for. Well, let's start with grade 5. Here's a great one: People and Stories of Canada to 1867. I don't know. So this is this grade 5 social studies curriculum. All of the elements of that grade 5 social studies curriculum. So as you can see here, it's all listed. They call it clusters. So the way they've organized material on this is called clusters. Cluster 1, First Peoples. Cluster 2, Early European Colonization. Cluster 3, Fur Trade. 4, From British Colony to Confederation. So that's the sort of the mainstream version of Canadian history. With each one of these, let's go look at fur trade, for example. So if I'm going to try planning a lesson to teach grade 5 social studies, I'm going to go to cluster 3 and start on looking for the different learning objectives. So these are topics here. So learning objectives, European expansion, North and West. The general learning objective would be 531. The specific learning objective would be KL 020. And I don't know if this is probably not big enough to see on the.
The 531 is what? Sorry?
It's the general learning objective. Well, each one of them calls them a little bit of different, right? So it's grade 5, cluster 3, and learning objective 1, basically. Then when you get into drill down the next one, so here, for example, locate on a map of Canada places and regions of historical significance to the fur trade in the Métis Nation. So there's a Google Map project, Google Map lesson that you could use. That would be very appropriate to use Google Maps to develop a lesson around that particular learning objective. What else could we put on here? And I'm just scrolling through here too. Describe the daily life and challenges for various groups involved in the fur trade. Again, more maps. Social studies, of course, lots of things can be told with maps. Here's one. Relate stories of the people and events of the fur trade. For example, Coeur de Bois, Pierre, all the different characters, the explorers, the European explorers. For a podcast, you could find some story that one of these explorers had written and narrated. So it's spoken, recorded in audio, that then becomes a podcast. What else could we do? Music, of course, the music of the early Europeans, First Nations music, all those sorts of things that would have an audio component to them. Podcasting is ideal for that sort of lesson. So, and then it gives you more details right within the curriculum document. I'm just scrolling down further into fur trade. They're giving you more detail for engaging people in the cluster. They're saying things like great visual displays. Students listen to songs about the fur trade era. So there you go. What could I do? How could I use a podcast to teach this lesson? Record a song of the fur trade era. What is a song of a fur trade era? Well, then you'd have to do a little bit of research. And in fact, they probably got resources listed right within this curriculum document again. So, and again, the teaching strategies, as we were working through this lesson planning, remember we had all the different ways of things that are expected to do, method of instruction, activate, acquire, apply, adapt. Well, if you look right within the curriculum, the Manitoba Department of Education curriculum document, it actually gives you some clues about doing this, using that process, how to activate a group, and as you scroll through, how to acquire, what's expected when you're as a part of your teaching method, what is expected? What does acquire mean? Same thing going down, and apply. And then finally, I think assess. Everyone activate. So those terms that we're using in our lesson planning relate to information that's given into the actual Manitoba curriculum documents. So filling in this lesson plan often is as easy as consulting the Manitoba curriculum. So, okay, we'll keep coming around to that too. And if you're, again, still looking for ideas, you can cruise the website, the Manitoba Education Government Education website. Probably that's the way you should be looking for resources for this particular class, because as I said, that's the expectation here, is that we teach the Manitoba curriculum. But there's all sorts of other places where there's resources available for lesson planning that quite often would match key elements of the Manitoba curriculum. The expectation here, of course, is that you reference the Manitoba curriculum, the specific learning objective in the Manitoba curriculum. So you get as familiar as you possibly can with the Manitoba curriculum and where to find the resources in it. So, okay, let's fool around now making a few audio files. So we're going to put together a podcast, and I'm going to show you a place where we can assemble a bunch of audio files into a podcast. But that means that we need some audio files first. So a couple of ways to do that. We could do it right on our, if you had a laptop with a multimedia laptop with a recorder built in, you can do it directly from there. We were playing around with this yesterday and creating some audio files just on your iPad, right? So using the voice memos, I think, was one of the applications that we used, and creating an audio file. I'm going to ask you to make 3 audio files today, each one of them about 30 seconds long. Call one, welcome to my podcast. Call the second one, this is my content on the podcast. It doesn't have to be permanent, but if you have an idea about what you're going to want to podcast about, and then a third file and call it, thank you for listening to my podcast. Welcome. Tune in next week when I'll be talking about blah, blah, blah. So make 3 audio files and store them on your Google Drive and call them that. Call them intro, content, and thank you, or outro. Think for a minute. And if you already have an idea about what you want to podcast about, well, this is a good opportunity to get sort of started on it. If you can't think about anything to record, 3 Hail Marys. 3 Hail Marys and 2 Our Fathers. Penance.
Can be about anything?
Yeah, well, I just want those 3 elements of a podcast: the introduction, a little bit of content in the middle, and a thank you or come again. Thank you, come again, sort of thing. It's an exit, an outro. We call it an outro, intro and outro, and content. Yeah, yeah, everybody can work on this. And what I want you to get practiced at is creating an audio file, putting it on your Google Drive, labeling it, putting it in a folder on your Google Drive called audio clips, just so you can organize this thing, this material, and then find it again. What we're gonna end up by the end of the day is a podcast posted on your blog. Job done.
So we go into voice memos for this?
Yeah, so, and you could use lots of different things. Voice memo is the one that we used yesterday. It actually seemed to work pretty good. So I think you can actually even edit a little bit in that voice memos one. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, if you need to go find a quiet spot, that's fine too. I mean, 3 clips, about 30 seconds long. Up to 30 seconds. I shouldn't say necessarily 30 seconds, but up to 30 seconds. Yeah, if you use voice memos, you can actually edit a little bit. You can see there's an editor in there that lets you cut and paste, edit. Edit, crop.
I made one, but I'm trying to. Should be very easy. Yeah. I remember. It was actually yesterday.
That was for yesterday.
Oh, that was yesterday. Okay, what did you do? What do you mean?
The welcome to my podcast based on what your content.
Yeah. That long. See what kind of thing but after we remove the photos. Okay, remember how we did this one?
Yeah.
Would you like to find it first? Are you discussing now?
What do you want us to talk about? Just like a subject matter?
Yeah, if you've got an idea for a podcast now, just to get some audio recorded on there. But if you've got a purpose in mind, that's good. You can use that. Otherwise, it can just be anything with any audio file. What's a song of the fur trade? Hello?
Sorry to book your class, but do you by any chance have a steak or anything wrong?
Not that I know of. I don't think so. Maybe that classroom down the hall. Yep.
I only got like 3 pages.
I had one of those books.
Can you sing?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Remember?
Recite a poem. Read a story.
The Canadian folk song. Faintly as tolls the evening chime, our voices keep tune and our oars keep time. Soon as the woods on shore look dim, we'll sing at St. Anne's our parting hymn.
Recorders. So slow.
Well, that's what they're doing.
Install Mama by record these.
Okay, so once we upload it to Google Drive, then.
You got 3 files loaded into Google Drive, each one of them labeled differently in your, label them, put them in a folder called audio clips. So in Google Drive, yeah, create a new folder. You know how to do that? Yeah, so go under new and then new folder and call it audio clips or.
Do we have to talk in our podcast, obviously?
Or sing. Sing.
Can it just be a me breathing?
Well, for the time being, you can do whatever you want, but just to get some content in there, because we're going to manipulate those files. But if you want to start recording something, like I said, intro, outro, and something in the middle, because you're going to make a 3-part podcast today.
Okay.
Introduction, content. Thank you.
I don't like my voice.
Your voice is beautiful. I don't like my voice either. It sounds stupid when it's recorded. I think everybody feels that way, though.
How do I know which one is which? I can't hear it from here.
So that's the trick. That's the trick. How can you do it? It's on your Google Drive. Well, make some sound and make a recording. Although, because today you're actually going to make a podcast, and a podcast has those three elements in it, right? Intro, content, welcome, thank you, or whatever. So, welcome, content, thank you, or whatever.
Welcome, can you say that?
Yep, sure. But when you do an actual podcast, though, there's a little bit more expectation of that. But right now, you just want to get some files in place, right? So, listen on your phone. Have you got Google Drive on your phone? Yeah. So you should be able to listen to it on your phone.
Yeah, I'm just renaming it.
Okay, good. Yeah, good.
Welcome to my podcast.
Got them?
Well, we recorded 3.
Good. 3 that you can identify.
Oh, yeah. Now. What are they? They have to keep this. Same.
Can you save my inbox document?
What's that?
My inbox document?
The recorder?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different ones. This is called audio recorder, but it still works though. It records.
Yeah.
And can you save it? Welcome
How
to my
do you-
podcast.
Okay. Welcome to my podcast. Then
Right, and then stop it or.
hit save.
Well, listen to it first just to make sure. But yes, that's what you do is say, okay. We'll probably want to rename it. So click on there where that says and rename it something welcome. Again, so that you know that you can, but that's okay. So just keep doing it again.
Okay.
So just record.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to my podcast. Whatever.
Okay,
Yeah, good.
there you go.
Okay.
Now change the name of that to welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, and I'll say okay.
Okay.
No, I don't know where you're saved, where this,
Yeah, it's going
does it
down.
save it to, click on welcome now again and see if it gives you the option to save it someplace.
I just couldn't find that other one that
Let's try share. And it should give you the option to share it to Google Drive someplace. You got Google Drive set up on here?
yeah.
Okay, so it should be one of your choices, one of your options usually, maybe, no. No, so what you want to upload is upload that to Google Drive. I thought it was with share. Let's try share. Ooh. Oh, did I delete it?
Yeah.
Say no, it's cancel.
Cancel.
Click on it again. Share.
Share.
Missed it. Okay, so you want to put it on where? Save to files, maybe. And I actually want to get, you want to add, you don't want to do it on Google Cloud, although you could do it on Google Cloud Drive too, but we're trying to set it up on Google Docs. You got to get your device saving to Google Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try. Did you try this one?
I have it in the Google Drive.
Okay, so this one actually has a little bit of an editor. This is called voice memo.
Oh, I know, but I couldn't find it in the when they're in the told me to.
Yeah. You can
I tried looking for that same one, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, App Store.
Oh, I didn't even connect. That's why it doesn't work.
Possibly I'll try again.
always be in your Gmail.
It's not even connected, that's why.
So, just have to connect, that's all. Find the Wi-Fi.
Did you make it an anonymous Gmail?
Yeah, it won't let you save to anywhere unless you're connected to the internet, of course.
That's fine.
But I was connected.
So don't use this, don't use the E, use this.
Go back and find a different Wi-Fi. That's I have had trouble with that one. Go find the one, wireless. Go to the wireless. That's the one I'm using. It's really quick.
I have to, the one I usually use.
You use Guest?
Mm-hmm.
One of the others?
I come in over here. We have all
You
these.
connected? Okay, now go to the store. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
So you're going to the store, App Store. Oh, no, I wonder what would happen now if this is going to find the Google Drive. You would have to restart the program.
And pick a theme.
Share situation. It doesn't give you one of the options over here. It should show up here when you do this. It should let you. Let's try that other. Let's see if we can get to this other one. This voice memos one. Should do it.
But it worked yesterday.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Voice memos. Okay, so it's called voice memos. Well, I use this one too. Actually, that one worked okay. Yeah. Try this one here. Go down a bit. That one. Get. Oh, that's the one below. Get this one.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm doing it, but it's not, like, it's showing up on here, only one here.
Okay.
It's still loading or something.
That should be on your desktop there somewhere.
Google Drive.
Find it. Brilliant. You have to go back to your apps. Oh, there it is. It's coming. So most of these recorders give you the opportunity to upload right to your Google Drive right away, which is what you want to do. Yeah. You know how to get rid of stuff?
Yeah.
Oh.
I deleted some of the most
Okay. Press and hold. Yeah. Hit the little X and it's gone. Yeah, you probably want to clean it up pretty good because what we're doing here is going to need
That's where I'm at.
all the these little things have, right?
Do you go to audio clips or?
Well, that's the file that you created to put them in, so you can put them in there, but
By dragging.
but if you know, like, this is the first one sent it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could. Then I got more damage.
I don't, okay, what do we do after we put the? Yeah, I think we need.
Okay,
to
we're
walk
ready?
through it.
Again?
Okay, so have you got 3 files in your Google Drive that you can identify?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. That's where we're at. Now we're going to try a couple of different applications. Let's try SoundCloud first. So go
Can
and
we just
do
go back to how we get them onto a folder?
yeah, go to, for everybody else that's sort of waiting, go to SoundCloud and set up an account with SoundCloud using your Google ID for this class. So they'll always ask you for a username, so use the first part of your fake username for this. They'll always ask you for an email account, usually.
On our iPads?
Either or, you can do it on both places, because it works both places. Once you set up an account with SoundCloud, you'll be able to access it from whatever device, your phone,
These or,
Okay.
I don't know.
Those are yours.
Yeah, but I don't know which one is 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
I might as well put them all in.
Oh, didn't you give the name?
When I was recording,
Yeah.
uploading, no, I couldn't, it doesn't,
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
put a name
Which
on
one?
there.
In,
Are you
when
guys
you're
connected to
recording?
the
Okay,
internet?
so when I recorded, I'm gonna show you.
Yeah.
When
Our
I
iPad?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm no student. When I go like that,
Okay.
click on that, save it, it doesn't actually give me a.
So it actually lets you edit,
Did it open?
and then you can change the name, I think. So call that, what is this?
I don't know, welcome to my podcast.
Just go to edit.
It doesn't.
Oh.
Okay,
Yep, so just,
Yeah.
there you go.
okay, so welcome.
I renamed them already
Oh,
on
okay.
the,
Oh,
here.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but yeah.
As long as you can recognize it.
Did you put them on a button, and then what?
And then, yep, done.
Oh, okay.
So now I want to put them on your, that one, and then we'll put them on your drive there, so you can put it into it.
Oh, okay.
And you can
Show up,
just,
yeah.
yeah, that'll show up with its
But
name.
where I'm stuck is how do I get this to your folder?
Okay, so as soon as you get it, well, actually, just grab one of those and drag it over the top.
Okay.
You
See?
have to hold it down, though, you gotta hold it in.
Yeah, I am, see?
Yeah, and then drag it over.
See, I am, it's not working, that's me.
It's being slow.
I'm dragging it, not working.
Okay, so just click on that, open that file.
Which one?
Any of the audio ones, yeah.
That one we don't have.
Do you remember how we'll?
Oh.
You need to put that.
An empty screen.
Yeah, so right click on it. And go down to right there.
Where it says page type.
Where's
Can we do that?
And then
We go to
hide
Google
drive.
Drive page, you know?
Yes.
And you should create a folder in there.
It'll say,
Yeah.
create a folder.
Well, it already did, I think you already have a folder in there, so just click on that little shed on there. Nope. Just little thing there. Oops. Yeah. Good. And then you,
So that's what you do.
yeah.
Right click.
Yeah, usually you can drag and drop, or I'm not sure whether you do it. That works too. Yeah, so everybody else is setting up their account with Spotify. No, not Spotify. SoundCloud, right?
SoundCloud?
Did I say Spotify? SoundCloud, okay. Let me go find the link here and I'll put it in the blog too.
On the desktop?
You can do it either place, anywhere for the time being.
So we just leave our audio clips in our folder?
Yeah, because we're gonna set up an account with SoundCloud and then we're gonna take that audio clip from your G drive and put it into your SoundCloud and get a player. So SoundCloud is the application. That's the service, I guess, is what it is. Yeah, it's free. And you should be able to recognize SoundCloud like this, and then just create an account. Create an anonymous account. And you, again, this is like all these other things. You can create as many accounts as you want. I'm going to continue with Google, sign in with my Google account. Although, wait, no, I've got a SoundCloud. No, I'm going to try it. I'll go and sign in with my Google account. Right away, it found me, found my SoundCloud account. All my clips are on here. My playlist, my stations are all on here. So at some point, you should get to something that looks like this. You're on SoundCloud, you've created an account, and you're signed into the SoundCloud space. And while you're waiting, download the SoundCloud app on your iPads or your phone and log into it with the account that you just set up.
You drag it to auto clips again, eh?
Yeah. Audio clips.
Why is it breaking?
Okay.
So when we copy the link, or we do that,
Sorry?
do we copy the link?
The link to, oh, no, you're going to have to actually drag the file in there. So you'll have to go, so for example, in this one, they're asking me, are you on your pad or are you on the computer? On the computer, so I have to download that file from somewhere and then drag it into this. I'll go back here a little bit too. When you're on your, once you've logged in and set up your SoundCloud account, you'll see this button right beside your sign in. It says upload. And it's going to ask you to choose what files you want to upload. So now you got to go find that file that you want to upload. Now, it'll be in different places. You've all stored it in Google Drive, but that depends on whether it's on your desktop or whether it's on your iPad. You just want to go find one of those files and drag it into here. So what have I got?
Google Drive, why can't we access them on here?
On the main computer, the big computer?
Yeah, like I uploaded them from my
Yeah.
iPad here, but I'm trying to.
So now you have to download them, put them on your desktop. So go into and just drag it onto your desktop so that you can access it to put it into SoundCloud, right?
I lost my one thing. Weird. I was gonna see where it was.
You got it?
Google Drive. There's only 2 and I sent all 3.
I'm still catching up.
I wanna make sure it's like.
So then once you've saved your file on your desktop, if you're working with the desktop computers, upload and go find that file, and it should have saved it for you. When you downloaded it from Google, it would have saved it someplace where you can find it. And downloads, I think, is probably where I automatically download anything too.
Do we want all 3 at once?
No, not for this one, just one file for this to get us started.
Okay.
This one really doesn't have any capacity to edit files, so splice them together. The other one we'll use does, so, but for the time being.
So you don't want the whole folder, like the audio folder?
Not to put to SoundCloud, no. Just this one, unless, yeah, just one at a time for this one. Just put the welcome one on there. Yeah. Just let me get this going for here. I'll find my audio file. What did I call that? I can't even remember what I called it. Voice memo test, okay. Okay, down there, okay, good. And then you made a SoundCloud account? Just open another tab. You're gonna have to open up another tab. Yeah. Now just do Chrome.
Well, you can do that after I go.
Oh, yeah, okay. Just search for SoundCloud. Yeah, so now create an account and use your account here. You actually might even just able to go just continue to Google it now. If you're logged into your Google account on there. So continue. Choose your account. No, say you're 100. Say none of business, or have to indicate none of business. Yeah, fine. Okay. So now you're in business. So now what we're doing is going to upload. And now you're going to go find the file. So, okay, you did one in Google Drive. Yeah, try one. So, click on that one.
This one?
Sure. And down. Oh, sorry. Go back. Right click on it. Download. See here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now go back to uploading your music. Drag that into that box. Okay. And that's where I am at. Everybody got a SoundCloud account?
Yeah.
Got a file dragged into it?
No, I'm trying to add it.
Okay, so,
They're in my drive, but
okay, so go back to your drive and
I was trying to drag them.
just right click that one.
Oh,
And download.
oh, gotcha.
Should I go back to SoundCloud now? You're not browsing here.
No, but look, I could do it in my download.
That's a lot, I think. Everybody? Okay. Okay, so we got a file in there. Got a computer? Yeah. Okay, is it an audio file? Okay, go back to the computer, right? Where are you on there? Is that, okay, on this one, on the top, right? Got it. And then go to the video on that same tab. And the file changes. Okay, right click on it. And jump it. Yeah. And then go back to SoundCloud, right? And then just drag that. That's where everyone's at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for the time being, we'll see, because we can't really do much editing with these things yet. So everybody getting there? We good? Okay, so, okay, close that up. And they're automatically using VLC there. That's fine. Okay, go back to the drive. Right click on one of those. So we're going to use download. Okay, and now go back to SoundCloud. Drag that. As soon as it's done, it should get you there. You seriously? Oh, wants you to verify your email address. Go back into your Gmail. Just say okay. Box there. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
So we put all the three in there?
No, just one for this thing. Because this one, we haven't really been able to patch these audio files. Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine too. That's fine too. Let's see what it looks like, okay? So now, everybody in that place, Bernadette, you catching up there? Or? You trying to download the file? Okay, it's down over in the bottom left-hand corner. Is that an audio file? Is that an audio file? Okay, so do this again. Audio files there? No, right. Download. Now go to SoundCloud. Drag that in there. And down the bottom corner. There in there on SoundCloud. Yeah, you might have to verify your account. That's it. Okay, so we got a little player here, little SoundCloud player. You can customize it. It'll have a title, so you can call this Your Name Podcast or whatever, Your Name Welcome, or just something so that you can identify it. They want you to give it a tag of some kind, so describe it. Just test. And then a description. And then save this. As soon as you start doing this, they start processing it and turning it into a podcast, basically. Upload complete. Go to your track. So here's this podcast, basically. You play it. It won't work on those devices.
Testing information memo. What else can you do with this application?
Blah, 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 blah. Okay. But now if you go to your devices, log into your SoundCloud account on your devices, you should be able to see on your iPad SoundCloud account, you should be able to listen to the audio. Sorry? Who's that? Who is that?
Where's that coming from?
Don't know.
Where's that coming from? Is that you? No? No, you can listen to it on here though. Like it's they're all.
Oh, can you hear it on that thing?
Your thing there.
There's like the speakers muted, but if you sit down, you can hear.
On these company computers?
Yeah.
Was there actually a speaker on there? Oh, I didn't realize there was. Cool. Good to know. Is there a microphone? Try it.
So where would we find this on our?
So on your device, you're gonna have to download the SoundCloud app. So you can go to the store, right? The app store.
Yeah, I got that on here.
Okay,
I
and then
got it.
okay. So then when you get on there, then you're gonna have to log into your SoundCloud account. It's gonna ask you to log in.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
It's a little different than the.
Yeah, they're always a little bit different for sure.
And then we're just copy and paste that link into our blog.
Well, actually, let's go back and do this. So now you can listen to it, but don't worry about that. If you go back over to your blog now and go into the share button on this, it's going to give you a player, right? So it's going to give you a link. What do we want to do though? We want to embed, right? So if I went to, I'll go back. So I'm on my SoundCloud account. I want to go to my, I lost my thing already. I lost my, what I was just recorded. Where's my stuff? Here's one, voice memo. This is the one I was looking at.
Okay.
So now you can see on the bottom there, it says share. So now you could send this as an email or share it as a link is there. You could share it on Twitter or Facebook or any of these social media sites. But we want to go embed, go get the embed code. And it's going to give you a couple of options of how you can embed this. A couple of different players are available. Some colors, you can change the appearance of it. You can see I put a picture of my guitar on the, as my sort of profile picture for this. You can click through these and see what the different players are going to look like. Some of them, it looks like they're going to make you pay for some of the other ones. So, but right now, let's go grab this one. So this is what it's going to look like. So you see where it says the code down there? Just click in there and select it all, copy and paste, or copy, so Control C, and go back to your blog. Now go find the page that you created that you called podcast, right? So I have a page that I called podcast. I want to add some material to this page. So I'm going to edit this page. Actually, that's not the right one, but that's fine, it'll work. And then find a spot in the page. I don't know if you actually have anything on your page yet or not, but yeah, we can embed a bunch of different things on here.
You copy that code?
You copy the code, yep.
Yeah.
And then find a place on your web page and make sure you're in the HTML editor, right? Because we got that code stuff in there.
So we had Vocaroo from yesterday, we can just add right
Yeah,
below.
just go right below it. Yeah, find a spot below the Vocaroo code.
Okay.
No, you can put it whatever, and you can fool around with this and see what it looks like too as you go. But so now just Control V, of course, paste that in there, and then update your post and view it. So now you should see a player on here embedded on your blog that has a control.
What else can you do with this application? I guess pause, resume.
Not so much control on the embedded version of this thing, but some control. You can pause it and stop it. If you want to go listen to more or have more control over it, click on the actual podcast, the embedded podcast, and it'll put you right into your SoundCloud account.
Do we publish it out there?
Yeah, it'll give you the opportunity to publish it. Yeah.
So we just have the title of it. What title did you put?
I just put whatever file title was on there. I think mine was voice test, but you can change it and you can actually edit this as you go along.
So I just put intro on mine.
Oh, I see. Oh, on that. Oh, this is a page. Is that a page?
Is that a page?
Okay, call this podcast. This page is a podcast.
Because I have another one that
Oh, do you? Okay.
I'll just write.
Oh, sure. You can make it as you want. Podcast 2. Okay, publish it. Yeah. Okay, so view that page. Okay, there you go. Podcast is embedded. If you click on the link, click on the arrow in it. Should play it. Now, there's something you can actually hear sound out of these things.
Yeah.
You go down to here and put that little sound thing. Crank. Yeah.
It's okay, but
No.
Break over?
That breaks over.
Okay, I'm here. I could upload and then what?
So now you gotta go find your file in Google Docs. So go over to here and just open Google Drive. This. You'll find one of your sound files, the one that you want.
Someone wasn't breaking.
An audio file. Is that an audio file?
Just an audio file.
Okay, right click it. And download.
Okay.
Now go back to SoundCloud.
Oh,
That's there.
wait, so,
No, drag that into that box.
oh, okay.
Now, you can add things, you can change the title. This is gonna be your episode, your SoundCloud episode,
Okay.
but usually you don't have to do it. Let's just scroll down and you'll see where it says save it.
Okay.
So now it's processing it. And as soon as it's done, it usually does it, but you can actually go to your track. Okay, there's your track. Now we're going to share. Move on there. Yep, that's it. And then we want to embed. And there's your code. See, now we go to your blog, the page that we got for the podcast, or any page.
Or here, and that was yesterday's.
That's fine, you can add to it. So click on there and click down below there's a wait. Don't click there, click at the end here,
Lower thing.
and then enter a couple times. And now Control V.
How do I go back to my other two?
Yeah, check it out.
I'm trying to find it.
That's the one I have.
What other one? I loaded
Where
all
is
three.
Actually, didn't you put it on a post? I think you put it on a page, actually put it on a post.
Go to home.
Just take the post.
It's going to be right here, right?
Well, view blog, let's see what it is.
But that's okay, where is
Yeah, that's
that?
there for the time being, but move around after when I'm gonna get you to do the lesson, the podcast that you create for the lesson. Put it on a separate page.
I'm going to do it now in bed. To a question bed.
Yeah,
Yeah, in bed.
highlight that. Yeah, I click on it. Well, just click on it. Control C.
But I only have my intro, but I don't have those other two.
Oh, no, you go to.
Yeah, so
your-
we haven't been able to splice those together yet. I'm gonna show you another application where we can actually put those separate audio files together. So there's a few ways of doing it. There's an application called Audacity that we could take and we could splice them all together and make one long file. That, we can only do that on here though, and then we can't hear it.
Control B.
We'll use another application called Anchor. So it lets us combine a whole bunch of individual audio clips into one podcast presentation. In fact, we can do that. Should we move on there yet? Well, actually, go into on your device now. Go find your SoundCloud application on your device. And
Are you supposed to download SoundCloud on your,
yeah, gotta go to the App Store and get the app, right?
App Store, sometimes it doesn't show me anymore. And then, it works.
Yeah.
SoundCloud. I should have it in here, you know, just to use it.
Do we put these on our blog too?
Yeah, just put it on a page called podcast.
You ready? Maybe let's just play.
Looks like you have to put another app on called SoundCloud Pulse to use your tablet to create a file.
Yeah, I got all of them in there.
SoundCloud Pulse.
But the other two are not shown on here.
No, probably not, eh? Hmm. Okay, well we got time. Let's go grab Anchor. So this is another site like SoundCloud, although Anchor is going to let us upload multiple files and have some fun with this. So Anchor, and you can do it both on your desktop, which is probably useful, but also get the Anchor app on your device. So download the Anchor app on your device. And the same thing, just use your throwaway account here. Don't give them any more information than they absolutely have to. They might make you go to your Gmail and confirm the account.
Anchor.
Anchor, yeah.
SoundCloud Pulse?
Well, that's
What you said.
Anchor now. We're moving over to Anchor, yeah. I'm not sure if SoundCloud Pulse is actually going to let me record directly into it.
But on your cloud, that's cloud, this is Anchor.
You have to sign up for it?
Yeah, same thing. Use your throwaway account, your Gmail account. Data. Anchor, and I think I put the link on the blog too. I didn't.
It's asking me to select an image.
Yeah. Do you have an image you can select? Usually it puts you into your whatever images you have. It wants to sort of do a little profile for you, but you should be able to just go past that, I think.
It's asking me to select all the images. Why?
No.
Bicycle robot.
Yeah.
You're not a robot.
Oh, yeah, I just said I'm not a robot. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is what's called a CAPTCHA, right? They're trying to figure out if you're a robot or not. So it means that they're testing you.
Yeah, thank you.
So now you have to find all the pictures out of the bicycle.
You're missing one that keeps coming up.
So, this one.
So are we putting our recordings we made in here?
Yeah. Yeah, so you'll see a bunch of different options on there that where we're going to be able to combine this. And I don't know if you're going to be able to do it on that computer. I don't know. Were you able to get sound on that computer? Some were. It makes sound? Okay, good. Then you can upload your clips into this. And
Onto what library?
well, in this case, yeah, just upload, keep uploading and put them all in your library.
So go to
So upload
podcast
files.
setup.
Yeah, podcast setup. Go back to the Gmail account and see. I'm gonna send you a message in Gmail. You there? Okay, good. Good. And now, can you do it on your iPads too?
Yeah, just
Download the app and log into your SoundCloud app on your iPad or on whatever device you use. Okay.
So just, okay.
This is what you wanted us to do, right?
Sorry. Oh, I see it automatically. Okay. Oh, you found it. Okay, that's good. So we're gonna upload all of those audio files that you created on Google Drive now. Upload it to that.
Put all three.
Yep, put all three. That's what we did this for.
On Anchor? On Anchor?
Yeah, put all three of those files that you recorded before on Anchor.
So just a random name or whatever, how will I get
Yeah,
the file?
just put your name and podcast or whatever.
Okay, and then,
Sure.
okay. Oh, in the description?
Well, only if you want to, you can edit this after, yeah, but they usually, they won't let you go on unless you do what they want you to do. Just have to give it some description. You might say, okay.
You know what you're doing there?
On the mic.
Go back here. Okay, so click on where it says.
Getting to know it?
Trend, so just put your name and.
My name
Well, or your alias, yeah, just use your alias. And then podcast description. So just say test or whatever, podcast, class, ICT class, or whatever. And then just keep going down there until that continue thing comes. So
Did you say I want to make a new podcast?
what's that?
I want to make a new
Yes.
podcast?
And choose one. Just say.
Why am I not?
You can change this anytime. Let's set this up there. Good deal. Okay, as soon as you get to that. Okay. Yeah, so now let's do it. Yep, okay. So now these are all of this is all of your dashboard for making a podcast. So now you're going to go into record or upload. So this one, we don't have a microphone on this device, so we can't do anything there, but you can upload, so click on it and go back. And go, you probably have to go up and click to upload or drop. Yeah. Now go find your files down there. You've got all three of those files down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just drag it into that box.
In here?
Yeah, just close that. And like that, and drag it into that box.
Yeah. Well, the library is the upload?
Yeah, the library is gonna be your collection of files. These are all your files.
If I don't have one for now,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know
fine.
where my free went.
Okay, that's fine, we'll catch them up. Can you find them on Google Drive?
Are you sure?
Did you do all three?
See, what I did was put them in here.
Well, that's fine, but I don't look like they did go in yours. What happens when you click on that?
Nothing, look.
No,
here.
Just took a little off course license.
Okay, so now, right,
No.
never mind.
Yes, you got it. You got it.
We upload all three at once?
Yeah, you can put them all into that library.
Okay.
Because I can't even tell which ones are,
Well, that's why you gotta right click and rename them, right? And make
welcome to
sure.
my podcast, but I did rename them
Oh.
on here and then save them and then,
Okay.
but you see?
You didn't say they change.
Can I just click all of them for a little?
Yeah, sure,
I can
yes,
keep
in
them
fact,
after?
you can do that, you click them, you can all upload them all up in there.
Okay, perfect.
Because we're just fooling around here, we're experimenting, playing around.
So I know I don't miss anything.
Yeah. And then once you get things in your library, you can start creating an episode. So from your library, go into your library. And so this is the space where you're going to compose all of your, putting together all this podcast. And here's the thing you're going to put it. Okay, so I'm going to go, I'll plus this one, I'll plus that one, I'll plus this one. I'll put all these files in there just for fun. Intro, what else have I got? Outro, have I already got, oh, I already got outro. Okay, so now in my podcast, I've got these 5 little clips.
You have to drag it to the library?
Yeah, or just hit the plus sign.
Not into the.
Can you?
Oh, no, when you change them, you had to drag and upload them. Click to upload or drop audio files here, right? As soon as you drive it into that box, it puts it in your library. What, we'll check your library?
Did you see how I downloaded it?
Oh, there's one. Intro is there. It's like not in your library.
Is this what you need your drive?
Okay, try dragging that on.
And then you're on your free. Okay, right click on one of them. Oh. Download. Come here. Then you try that to got it here.
Once we have all these 3.
Yeah, and you load them into your Anchor accounts. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, okay, well, let's just wait for a minute because we'll fool around a little bit. Put down into these other things down here. Go into this thing.
Because when I went into library, there's nothing.
Yeah, because you put them all in here.
Yeah, so where do I drag them in here?
No, this is the episode. This is what you're creating. So go down to the big thing though, and see the other things that you can put.
Oh, okay.
So now we're gonna be able to put little pieces of music or little sound effects or little transitions between.
But these will stay here on
Those
the
will stay there, and
regular.
we're gonna shuffle and sort them and add things to this.
Okay.
Okay.
But
Okay, well, watch what I'm gonna do here. So I got this, I got my little clips in here over in my library. And now I'm gonna find some stuff here that I like or whatever. So something like this, listen. Or and they got millions of these things. I like it, that's going in. What else? What's Isabel? No. Jupiter?
I'm gonna try follow along online.
Okay, yeah, should be there. We'll go back over it, of course. Limbo, gotta put limbo in. Mellow? Okay. So these are, yeah, in transitions. So these are all things that you can put onto this thing. So I've added them all to this dashboard over here. But they're not in the order that I want, right? So what you can do on the side here is drag any one of these things that have when you run your cursor over the top of these little things on the side, you can drag and move them. So I'm going to start organizing things so that I can, I don't know, I'll start with this one. I'll put this one up at the top. So this is going to be the first thing that happens on my podcast. Is that, is it? No, I lost it. Okay. Then I'm going to put something else in between there, another little transition in between that section. Another little transition between that section and that section. Where is this one? Okay, I'll put it there. Okay, so now I've got 3 audio clips and I've got a few of these effects clips. Oh, I got to put intro in the right place. Oh, I got outro before intro, so I'm going to take this and move it down to the bottom. That's the last thing I wanted to have. Yeah, you can do lots of stuff with this. Here's my intro. I want my intro, of course, at the top. Right after the first. This one. I want this little transition music here in between. There. I want outro down near the last. And what else? Okay. So I think I've got mine organized the way I want them to be. I got an introductory clip. Yeah, so you're putting together a podcast, a whole episode of a podcast with your audio, the ones that you recorded, plus all these transition effects in between. Okay, so watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to save changes. And I'm going to, let's call this Pent demo. Yeah, save those changes, yeah. So I'm going to publish this now. Test. Sometimes it won't let you go on unless they give them what they want. Let's see if that's enough. Okay, so here's my little Pent demo podcast. What does it say? And where is it? Why don't I play it? Still publishing.
So after title, you just go publish now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's working on it. It's putting it up, getting it ready to go. Even in the meantime, while I'm still waiting for this to all get processed and uploaded, I can go over and get the embed code. It's copied. Now go back to my blog, wherever I want to put my podcast stuff up here. I've got podcasts in a few different places. Same thing, make sure you're in the HTML editor. Go find that now and put it down below where your SoundCloud was. And update. So you're gonna have some fun with this.
I'll use this application to demonstrate the possibilities for creating and assembling podcasts from various audio clips. I'll have to figure out how to create and record audio clips and import them into this facility.
Anyway, you get the idea. So we'll go back over this a few times, I guess, and fool around with this some more. That's all I'll cover today. I'll make sure everybody sort of gets up to speed if they want to while we're going this, but this is kind of the idea. So now you've created a podcast episode using Anchor. The interesting thing about using it on your device, now if you've got your device, SoundCloud loaded on, or Anchor recorded on your device, and you're logged into your account, when you click on record, it actually lets you record right in your device. So you don't have to do any of this file saving. It says you got to let them use your microphone, and now I'm recording directly into my Anchor application right on my device. So no fooling around with finding files in Google Drive or piddling around like that. And once it's done, hear me blabbing away. I guess I got to turn my volume up. Finding files in Google Drive. So like that. That's one of the advantages of using Anchor on these devices. It gives you that capacity to record. I could do the same thing and you saw me do it on my laptop. It's just that we don't have microphones on the company computers here that would let us record into them. So that's why I had to record files someplace else, upload them to Drive, and then install them on here. So
we save the episode?
Yeah, so you can save the episode, and then as soon as you save the episode, you should get invited to, it's going to process it like this, right? And what you want to do is get that embed code and go put it back on your blog where you've started putting all these podcasts. So now on your page that you've called podcast, you should have one that's from Vocaroo. You should have one that was from SoundCloud, and then you should have this one too.
So with this one, what do we title this one?
Something just to keep them separate.
Like that?
Yep.
And then,
Publish now, and if they don't like it, they want you to put a little bit of things in there, so just put test or whatever. Okay, that's it. Okay, yeah. Thanks. Okay, so now this is your podcast, so now you're going to grab that embed code there. It's in your report, so now go back to your blog and find a podcast page that you have there, and wherever you want to do it.
right here?
Well, you got two pages called podcast. Remember?
Yeah, but then
Okay.
these are the ones that intro the content. Those are from
Oh,
before.
those are all different pages? I should put them all together.
So,
Click on which one you want. Go on this one that says podcast, what's on there?
that's the one from before.
Okay, so that's whose player is that?
I didn't,
Which player is that? SoundCloud?
this is that one.
Go back to that page.
Right there?
The one that you just had open there? No?
My blogger?
No.
This one?
Okay, let's do it there, yeah.
Where? Here?
That one, yeah. So just edit the little button there, your pencil. And now click right behind there and enter a couple times. And now Control V. Complete. And then we'll view that page. So let's go on that one. And view.
Well, you get on here on your iPad.
Yeah.
So you got your Vocaroo on that one. You want to organize this and get all of that embed code because you want all three on one page. Right? You want
So this is the
Vocaroo.
one I need to put on,
Yeah, okay, just copy that again.
and then go to my
Yeah, blog.
blogger. Do I go to new page?
No, you already got 4 pages called podcast. You just want to use one page. Yeah, edit. Okay, same thing. So go to the end. Enter it the times. Now Control V. Now update.
And it should be in there?
And now if you go view that page now.
Where do I go?
Same thing. And view. Oops, no, that's edit. Yeah.
Oh, it's right
So
there.
now you've got, you might want to space these out a little differently too and organize them. If you go back, hit the pencil again there. Now, this is the HTML page, but if you want to see what it looks like, go into Compose. Now you can see what it looks like. So, yeah, just now click there, click enter a couple times there. Yeah, and then update this. So that's what it's actually going to look like on the page.
All right.
View it again. Just see what it looks like.
Where is it?
Yeah, remember you put it in as a page.
Oh, right there. Okay. Okay.
And go find that code that, you made a SoundCloud one too, right?
Yeah.
Go find the code that you had for the SoundCloud one and put it on this same page. So all of your podcasts are on that page. Yeah, just so we can.
This is where we're stuck.
Okay, yeah, no, you're good.
There's a red box that comes on.
Yeah, so they usually they want something in there.
Oh,
So just put that. Or hello, that, whatever.
oh, it is.
And
No, nobody remembers to write all this stuff.
Well, they still want you to add stuff in there. So go down where it says, you gotta choose the category. Oh, there it is. Okay, so now go over to this little button there that, and turn one over. There.
Copy and edit,
Yeah.
good.
So that's in your,
It should be in your
it's
blog.
in your grip. So now go back to your page, your blog page that you have for podcast.
Right here.
Is that,
From yesterday, from today, yeah.
that's actually a post, not a page.
Oh.
Let's go back and make a page. So go over where it says pages. Okay, so we have a page called podcast. Click on that.
Wasn't that from yesterday?
Yeah. So you're gonna put all these things in one
Okay.
spot. So just find the spot down, switch to HTML.
Oh, that's the, yeah, that's right, too.
And go down here and then paste it down.
Did I
So
copy it
Control
though?
V. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And
And then you
you'll see what it looks like. Now you have to go on the page on the top there. Remember it's a page.
my page.
There you go.
But just the one, or are all of them in their own
Well-
6, whatever I,
Whatever you put into this thing, if you play this, this is
You know.
song there. Go into your SoundCloud app on there
and then check it out.
and check it
Okay.
there, so it should, all those things should play on there. So.
Oh.
Hey, what about?
Okay, good, you're there, you're there. So go find that code there, you see at the edge? That code right there. Click it, okay, now go back to your blog. You got it on the top there.
Yeah,
You got it over there. And go into that page for podcast, yeah. And now put the pencil.
See SoundCloud, right outside of the.
Yeah, and now you just click at the end of that text there, yeah, and go enter 3 times. Enter, just push enter. And now Control V. Okay, and now update. And we'll view it. So, that's, oh, so that's the SoundCloud that you actually put that in the post. Go click on the podcast, that's your page. Okay, yeah. So now you got the Bokaroo is on there first. Now this is on there. You should actually go get that code from the SoundCloud one and put it on this stage too. So all your, let's try it. Yeah, so go back to your, just go back to home
I am, sir.
and put the pencil on that one. Yeah, because you have to do this too.
Okay, wait, then, what did
Okay.
you go home?
So she just went to the page where she had that SoundCloud stuff on. Just do blog again.
Oh, this, that,
That.
this one,
Yeah,
that's all,
and then just
bring it over here.
copy all that code. So,
You mean,
yeah, Control A. No,
what did you mean?
no, you wanna take all of this stuff and put it on the other page. Right? So this is on a post, you wanna put it on a page. Okay, just watch it. Okay, copy all this stuff. So just Control A, Control C. Okay, now, in fact, we could have done this as Control X. Let's try that. Okay, and now go back to the page, the podcast page. So,
Right here?
yeah, no, the page.
Page.
That's a post, you want to go to a page.
Well, this is the,
That's a page, okay, that's a page, that's where you want to be.
oh, okay.
You
But
want to
see,
be there, okay, yeah.
That's where it takes me again, though.
That's the page, yeah, that's the page called podcast. And go down a couple times and Control D. Is that the SoundCloud one? Well, that's the Anchor one again. You want to go back and get that code for the SoundCloud. So this, Vokaroo, okay, so that's fine.
Anchor.
That's fine, so now go back and find the SoundCloud.
This would be it.
No, that's Anchor. So that's SoundCloud, no.
It was on a post, remember?
Yeah, okay, so go find the post.
Okay. I'm gonna leave this
So
one.
that's,
There's two there, I need to. I didn't see me or drive.
okay, so this is still on, post, right? Okay, click on the pencil.
I need to get out of here.
So Control A. Control X. Okay, and then update this page. Okay, now go to your over into pages. Open the one called podcast. So open it, we want to edit it. Then go to the end, yeah. Hit that a couple times. And now paste. Control V. Now update this page. And then go to views. Now we show you a page here, you might reorganize things a little bit just to space them out a little bit, but you see what you've got. This is the booking thing. That's the anchor one, and that's the SoundCloud. So all three of their little audio things are on the same.
Okay, let's try
Okay.
right now. Okay.
So that's your page. Okay, that's a page. No, this is a post.
This is a
So
post.
say
Okay.
post, select all. Cancel this. Cancel. Control A. Control X. Okay, now update this, or close this. Now go to pages, and find that one, yeah. So now, find a spot on there, and Control V. So now you have duplicates on that.
What these are duplicates, here's my other
No,
stuff.
no, that's all right, you have to,
Only I have,
so you can get rid of that one over.
and this one.
Anchor's there.
Where's Anchor?
This one's there.
Anchor,
Yeah. That one's.
Volker,
That.
I'm on it.
But then look, we don't move it.
Because I got Volker,
Volker's there, and here's the next one, and this one will be sound.
SoundCloud, and what am I missing?
Nothing, that's it. So now update.
My thing is not here, I remember my intro and.
That's what I need to remember is on pages, not
Yes, and post
posts.
and page. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go, but we're gonna
Where is
organize things on pages. So go up to page. So
My
go to page
intro's
called
right
podcast.
there, but it's not in that.
No, there's no-
Okay.
Where did you,
The Vokaroo one doesn't show up because you don't know about it.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, that's the Vokaroo one. And that's the anchor one.
Vokaroo.
It's just
One
a.
step or two step
That's
and
fussy little stuff that she just tried to get right.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody in business?
Except me.
Okay, what are you working on here?
I was in a, what was I moved to a different thing.
What's that?
I moved.
Change computers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I didn't find the things that I left.
He only has his day 1 and day 8.
On what, on what?
On my notes and everything. Everything
Okay, so, this is it. Okay, just publish this.
What's going on?
Oh, it's around the video.
Well, that one is stuck for an hour and a half after.
No, that should do it. Just go with a few blocks.
How did you find it? Not too bad, eh?
Whatever is called smooth. Oh, my.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I was mixed up, but.
The first
one-
page.
No.
The first page almost kind of got me mixed up.
But where are you with podcasting now?
So
Did you? Okay. And did you
I went
put
over
the
it and
SoundCloud?
yeah, really see it. Other than that, I like the writing part of
Okay,
it.
we'll have to catch up.
Gives you a chance to pass.
She's all up. Okay. That's good for her too.
What do I need this?
She learned about teaching you. So, but if you run into trouble.
What do I need this?
If we're not looking for a new evaluation and assessment, and he's a man of his.
Okay, good.
Is it all of it?
Okay,
All of
wondering.
it for the next one? We
Well,
have,
I
the next
have an
one
office
is,
now.
Because we stopped them to clear up.
I'm only teaching 2 hours. So.
114, I believe we stopped.
But, no, that's fine. I can come over here or else we can talk here. Have you got Skype working? Skype's working. Let's meet on Skype. So 1 o'clock on Monday.
I know.
And then what I'll do, and this is good too, because then we'll have to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
You share your desktop and I can walk through the thing.
Well, that's 814, that's where he ends.
Everybody going all right?
Find out when they start.
That's good, you guys covered a lot of ground and did good work. That's great. This is, I'm even finding this a little bit complicated working between these different devices, so.
No, just got there, yeah, you can have them on hand.
No, okay, then bring it, I was going this along and put it in a plastic holder. Yeah, I guess.
Okay, I'm gonna shut off this broadcast now.
Are all the broadcasts still up? Because I
Yeah.
want to have a look at them over the
Sure.
weekend.
I've been putting them on
YouTube it.
on the